Hello and welcome to the panel discussion titled Changing Strategies, How the Bengali Cultural Sector is Coping with the Pandemic. My name is Proiti and I'm one of the co-founders of Jodi Bolo Rongin. Jodi Bolo Rongin is very proud to host a localized hub in Kolkata for the Arts and Culture Management Conference 2021. We are an organization that curates art and literature events and workshops with the goal of promoting original expression in the Bengali language. Thank you to all of you for being here with us today. And I'm very, very happy to tell you that today we have with us the founders or representatives of multiple cultural organizations based in West Bengal, India, but with a much wider reach. These organizations have been active for several years and have made valuable contributions to the sector. Today's topic, which is changing strategies, how the Bengali cultural sector is coping with the pandemic, is in accordance with the theme for the conference today, which is resilience. These organizations have been extremely resilient during the pandemic, which is why we have invited their founders and representatives here with us today. Without further ado, I would like to introduce all the panelists. So we have with us Dr. Sohini Chakraborty, who is the founder of Kolkata Sanved. We also have with us Dr. Arna, who is representing multiple organizations here, the Musiana Collective, Aroho, and Bondhu. We also have with us Madhuboni Chatterjee from Janhavi Center for Performing Arts, and we have Srabanti Basu from Bratati, Parampara. I would thank all of you for being here with us today, and I would request each of you to introduce your organizations to the audience before we move to the actual discussion.
Thank you, Proiti, for inviting, such a wonderful initiative, and congratulations to all of you to take this initiative. I am the founder director of Kolkata Sanved. Proiti already mentioned my name. I'm Sohini. And Kolkata Sanved is an organization which using not directly art for the art's sake, but using art for social change. So it's using dance movement therapy as a tool for psychosocial rehabilitation, reintegration, and empowerment of the marginalized community. And there are women-led pioneer in India and South Asia in the field of dance movement therapy. And we use DMT majorly in 3 sectors for the gender equality, mental health, and the livelihood. So this is very briefly how Kolkata Sanved works, and Kolkata Sanved's major contribution in the world of dance movement therapy is the developing a pool of dance movement therapy practitioners from the grassroots and the survivors. So 70 to 80% employee of this organization are coming from either from community or from survivors. So this is one of the major contribution of Kolkata Sanved, and this model is named as Sampurnata model, which is today a globally recognized approach in the realm of dance movement therapy. And yeah, so gradually the discussion will be, I think, demonstrate more about our work and everything. This is very brief.
Sohini, it was wonderful to hear from you. And firstly, I would also like to congratulate and thank Jodi Bolo Rongin for, creating this space in the context of the conference. I, as Proiti mentioned, represent a couple of organizations, one of which is the Musiana Collective. Now, the Musiana Collective was created in 2015, and it was mainly created to ensure that the content related to Bengali arts, but more specifically music, was curated, and the history of Bengali music and also a bit of classical music was represented through videos and through a YouTube channel. Then subsequently, with younger artists emerging, and we found that there was no space really for Bengali music, which was not in the film domain, in the non-film domain, which was original music. And the younger musicians working, we also included the works of younger musicians in the entire gamut of our operations, and then started doing live, trying to get sponsors to have live performances, primarily in Kolkata city. So that's how Musiana Collective emerged. And apart from that, we soon realized that for these shows, which are not really, in that sense, they are more local and regional shows, you need to have also a ticketing a ticketing platform where people would be able to use through social media, buy tickets and stuff like that for these performances, which do not get corporate sponsorships, which are very local initiatives. So you need to have some kind of local ticketing handles for that. So we created Musiana Miles, which is a ticketing platform. So that's what happened after the pandemic. I think I will, with the pandemic, I think I'll come to that later on, but that's basically the space for Musiana Collective. Aroho is basically, again, something to do with music. It's a music school where, and it was entirely offline prior to the pandemic. And so that's basically what Aroho does. It trains the children and adults of different proficiency level in music, again in Bengali music. And the other organization, Bondhu, is a children's experiential center like Sohini. It's using literature, arts, music for as a process of inculcating change within children and adolescents. And we also have adult groups. And so basically that has been there for 18 years, and we have been working in the face-to-face. It has never been an online space for the past 18 years, and that's what Bondhu has been.
Thank you. I'm Srabanti Basu. I represent Bratati Parampara. And first of all, I like to thank Proiti for giving us the opportunity to speak in this panel discussion. And Bratati Parampara is an organization which works mostly on poetry performance. It was founded by Bratati Bandyopadhyay, a renowned poetry performer. And I can say she is the most prominent poetry performer in Bengali. And she is an internationally acclaimed poetry performer of Bengali. So obviously we have poetry performance at the center of the activities of our organization. And we try to connect poetry with other forms of art, particularly the performing art. So we give regular lessons to different students, and we have also programs for organizing seminars and workshops based on literature. Not necessarily they are always on poetry or poetry performance, but we have different aspects, different types of seminars, workshops on literature. And we also conduct different short-term certificate courses like Tagore appreciation courses, news reading, anchoring, like that, and audio drama, audio play. So mostly we work on poetry performance, and other than that, other than having regular shows and regular classes, we have different special programs for underprivileged people, and also for aged people, like that. So more or less, this is about Bratati Parampara. This is a cultural organization working on poetry.
Thank you. And now finally about Janhavi.
Hello, I'm Madhuboni and I represent Janhavi. Thank you, Proiti and Jodi Bolo Rongin, for inviting me in this wonderful panel discussion. See, Janhavi is an institution where we practice different kind of dance art forms, rather, and where we learn to be happy, to be positive, and we learn to move towards light, positive light, or to extract positive energy from our surroundings. This is a place where we practice, especially we practice a pure classical dance form, that is Bharatanatyam, a very age-old traditional dance form from southern part of India. And this place always, in normal time, is throbs with students and parents and dancers, musicians, artists, and we have so many festivals. We have our own cultural activities, and it's a place where we live happily and we teach to gather happiness from around us. So this is what the Janhavi is all about, and let's hope for the best.
Okay, thank you to all of you for introducing your organizations to the audience. And without further ado, I think we can move into the actual discussion. So the pandemic has been here for almost a year by now. It's been that long, although that seems kind of unbelievable, but it has been quite long. So if I could request you to sort of take us back to this time last year, or roughly this time last year, say 10 months ago, just before the world turned upside down. What were your organizations doing? What were you planning? What were you looking forward to as an organization for 2020? What was on your mind this time last year back then?
Yeah, so, Proiti, yeah, so it's time flies. So it's like, 2019 December, actually, Kolkata Sanved was planning to do a next 5-year strategic planning. So that's also, we do always every 5 years, our strategic growth planning, that how we will be moving, what will be our vision, what will be mission and the action. So it was a kind of a plan and everything, set, like in January and Feb. So we raised, mobilized, fund, and end of the year also people are in a celebration mode as well. So it was a kind of a mix, a kind of thing. And if you like, and also like entering in January, so we organized, we are ready with the kind of moving with that strategic growth plan. But then definitely it happened, one face to face happened, because on that time also we never think about the online, like sitting in this structure. So definitely we are, because strategic growth plan is cost and everything. So definitely in February, we are 2020, we did our first phase, workshop.
Anyway, so I think, for again, when I'm talking about 3 organizations, firstly, for Aroho, we had a absolutely fixed set of plans that we were setting up. We were going to set up about 4 or 5 centers in different parts of the city and suburbs, because of we had initially, in collaboration with Bratati Parampara, we had started Aroho.
So Aroho is the music school.
The music school where
yes.
and then as the people started calling us from different parts of the West Bengal, we thought, okay, no one was thinking about online that time. We were just thinking of setting up centers, and accordingly the plan was going accordingly. And that was the music school. As far as the children and adolescent, the Bondhu, the experience center was concerned, we had just completed a very, very successful workshop, 3-day workshop. So we were thinking of kind of we had around more than 40-50 participants in from the workshop, and now everyone's wanted to be part of the regular. We have the weekly sessions, so we were planning to set up the space and how to have sessions for the whole year and all of that. And we had also completed a very, very successful story festival. which was Golpo Mela, we called it, at the time for stories. And so all of that had happened, and so we were kind of mobilizing, trying to capitalize on that, and how do we add value and work more on that. So all of those planning was happening with the children's center. And with regard to Musiana, we were also planning some live performances of some of the artists who had completed 2 decades of their music. And also there were some workshops that were in the, we were thinking of setting up some workshops and things like that when this happened. So that was basically, yeah. And one thing also I would like to say that we did, especially for Musiana, we were trying to have, because the YouTube channels are like free, people don't pay for what they watch. But and also I think I need to mention here that the YouTube revenues are also hierarchical. They go by the language. So if you have English language content, the YouTube revenues will be high. If you have a Hindi language content, which is a national language in that sense in India, the revenues will be high. But if you have a so-called regional language like Bangla, the revenues are very low. So even if we have around a lakh, like 100,000 followers of the YouTube channel, the revenues of those channels are low. So we have to substantiate that with live shows and things like that. So all of that was being planned.
Actually, last we have a big poetry festival in February. We do it in association with another organization, Avritti Lok. Last December, obviously, we were preparing for that festival, and our rehearsal was in full swing at that time. And we were in a very vibrant mood that we will be having that festival. So it was the situation in the last December. And also, we were planning for the next year. Usually, we do a year-long planning from April to March, and we usually start planning in December, January, start compiling the plannings December and January. So we were in that planning process, and the rehearsal was going on. So it was that situation in December. And fortunately, we could have that festival. And after that, all the things suddenly stopped down.
Yeah, actually, thankfully, I never plan much for future. It's so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen next. So last year, around this time, we were gearing up for our Boshantu Utsav, that is spring festival. And I was working on a new project of mine. It's on Ravana from Ramayana. We were having rehearsals, we were having fun. Everything was so, normal, and like it was too normal. It was too smooth to be true. And thankfully, on 15th of March, we had our spring festival. We had Boshantu Utsav, and 17th of March, the first case of COVID was detected in Kolkata. And after that, we went under this lockdown period. So that's what happened.
Thank you.
I think one more thing from Srabanti, I would like to hear that your classes, the poetry
Yes.
teaching classes were
Classes,
also
yes.
on
Yes,
several.
the classes were also on. Yes.
Yeah.
So we didn't think of that, and we have different centers. We have 10 centers in West Bengal in our state, and in all the centers, the classes were on, and all the centers were also planning their activities, their center activities. That is, we have two types of activities. One is the central activities where different center participates, the main activities, and the other one is the local activities that go on different centers. So those centers individually prepare, do the activities. So they were also planning their activities, and classes
Right.
were also there. Yes.
Right. So now we come to that, the most significant question is that once the pandemic hit, what did you do? How did you adapt? How did you modify your approach to the organizational activities, to even how you run the organization? I can imagine a number of logistical issues that must have come up, because you couldn't meet people, you couldn't meet employees or co-workers. And of course, since cultural activities are heavily dependent on audience participation, audience involvement, on reaching a number of people, many of your centers have students or practitioners who must come, who must congregate in a physical space for the organization to run as it does. And that was not possible anymore. So how did you adapt? How did you change your activities and your mode of functioning?
What I wanted to, reflect here, that at the initial, even in the March when we are started to hear about the COVID-19, virus from different, parts that it's coming, and I think that even as India, like as a like we were thinking that nothing will be happen on us. I think it was kind of a idea for all of us that
Exactly.
yeah, and I think after 9th March we officially kind of, after hearing the WHO news bulletin and everything, we officially started to prepare ourselves. It will be happen any day, any time. So all of our all of our travel cancelled. We postponed kind of May, June kind of thing, all the travel. And then even that we, online process actually came much later, because for us it happened like, I think when even Musiana collective, when started the online program, even Arnadi was telling Kolkata Sanved that whether we can give some kind of, things to, and I think we were talking about, it is dance movement therapy, it is very process oriented, and it is therapy. So very, very kind of quote unquote, like kind of it's so process and deep, we don't know what will be in online. That was a question actually, let's start its journey. So we felt that two things. One is it has to be relook from the scratch after lockdown, because we completely shut down the office as soon as it declared. And there is one more thing, as our major work with the marginalized community who required the need. So if for providing a DMT session, a therapy, a healing empowerment program, what kind of basic necessity they require. So even as a organization which believe on a empowerment focused organization, not a charity focused, on a right based perspective. So we work much more in a right based perspective, but we need to think about that time, and we never manage any kind of disaster management. So there is two kind of things came into our organization. One way, simultaneously we have to provide an emergency response to the community where we work in. We were running throughout the pandemic, we ran 12 projects across India, because we work West Bengal, Maharashtra and other states. But emergency response became another kind of a step into the organization. So what we have done, we first we took the month of April, do a risk assessment of the organization, participants and the community. So that was our first step to start any program. So that was a kind of a risk assessment. And then we developed a psychosocial protocol to handle all the participants, who will be providing the dance movement therapy session. So we need that protocol document, because what we will be giving online, what we will be not, what we need to do, what we do not do, and do no harm policy and the principle. That even providing a session, we have to be very careful that we are not harming anyone. the second thing is that there is a digital divide. Not everybody can access the internet. Then how we will be? It's a creative process. It's not only telephonic guidance. Even I wanted to talk over telephone, what will be the economic condition of the people who are getting the service. So those are really the question. And the third thing is, as I mentioned in the beginning, that maximum employee of this organization emerge from the grassroots, and they live, in different part of the rural belt or the grassroots, who never experienced of the work from home, quote unquote, very elitist approach. So in that approach, so it's a kind of a huge task for an organization to prepare people. Except few people, rest of the entire, 18, 19 people has trained how to work from home to provide the service. So finally, we took April and May, we provided emergency response constantly into the community, and we prepared everyone, our participants group, our collaborative organization group, our employee, and we took that preparation phase April, May, and then we started the entire, like program, project and everything from June. And I think from July, it's gradually take it up. And from August, we are fully on. Like there is challenges, but, so we are able to manage and definitely in the methodology, if you say, now Kolkata Sanved take, and we have strategically decided of a blended methodology, which is online and face-to-face. So it's became part of the entire program. That's how we function. And we have decided for the cost effective, for example, in our biannual summit, which always happen every 2 years in person. But this year that reach was huge. We are able to arrange the global, biannual summit. It was virtual. There is a challenges of internet. So even accepting those challenges, there is some benefits. So few area organizations strategically decided to do, online. And even with the British Council, we launched that Field Festival of Empowerment and Art for Life. So that happened in August. So those few things we have decided completely virtual mode. Even in our dance movement therapy academic program, so we decided that 6 months will be online, virtual, where Kolkata and Mumbai student, like this program we run with an university, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. So there will be online, and then 6 months will be face-to-face. We are moving, even for the future. I think I said a lot of things together.
Yeah, way forward and what it has been. I'll just, I guess, continue in this flow. See, for us, firstly, Sohini talked about emergency response. So firstly, I would like to say that for all the 3 organizations, we moved into online by May. We went into lockdown, I think, in March. By May, we were processing online. Not that the way it was online, it is online now, but we were at least, into the process. And that was primarily because of the fact that all the operations would actually otherwise come to a standstill. Now, if I talk about, firstly, I would like to talk about the Musiana Collective. Primarily because there were 2 things. One was the fact that, like Sohini talked about emergency response, we started with we were looking at, in this globalized kind of situation where you constantly get emails on webinars happenings and things like that, which, was unthinkable even 5 or 6 years ago. So we started ideating on the concept of webinars, and, you start getting softwares which offer you all this, through which you can do all this kind of stuff. Even that was not thinkable, 5 or 6 years ago. So we started with fundraising program for musicians, because musicians are the ones are some of the worst affected and mostly neglected, group of people in this pandemic, especially in India, because as we know that, anyway, let's not talk about that now. So basically, the musicians, we started with a fundraiser, and then following that, we changed. We collaborated with a tech company and a digital marketing company, and we created what was just a ticketing platform now became a platform to showcase events. So we started launching online events, and not just us. I mean, artists started approaching curated events. So I am actually quite happy and maybe a little bit proud also to say that over these very difficult times, we have had more than 162 shows on the ticketing platform Musiana Miles, and more than 12,000 tickets have been sold, and around 100 artists have participated. So I think that actually would be quite unthinkable over 8 months in an offline situation. So, and also all of these were paid concerts, so not a social media live event where or something with a donate button. You actually pay and you watch the performances across continents. So I think that and that that has now come to stay, the digital platform, digital events, and especially for I would say that it was something of a first for Bengali language performances, what we did, and then people started doing, and the platform has now become a space for everyone to perform and showcase their art. And then apart from that, the Aroho, instead of obviously the centers, as we went online, we saw that people from all over the world, and people from places who would not be able to reach the centers physically started. I mean, there are actually lots of challenges doing musical teaching online. I don't know, I would like to come to that later, but basically the switchover was in a way it helped to expand the access of the the school, and people started coming in, so that changed. And the children's center also becoming online, obviously, like Sohini mentioned, there are many protocols and there are many challenges and barriers, but still I would say that children, who were actually having miserable time looking at sitting in online classes and doing their schools, were actually having fun, and a lot of positivity being generated. We have had festivals, we have had performances, we have had get-togethers, and we have tried as much as possible to create a virtual experience that's meaningful and that makes you happy. So I think that kind of sums it up for me.
And now we come to Bratati Parampara.
Yes. I still remember the day. It was 14th March, and we had a meeting for our annual planning. So we were planning about the what we will do next year, that is from April 2020 to March 2021. And that day, there was a circular from the state government, and the circular said all the schools and colleges will remain closed from 16th March. So for 15 days, from 16th March to 31st March, all the schools and colleges will remain closed. So we were discussing about the circular, and we were little apprehensive about the future situation. After that, it was, but we were supposed to have the certificate giving ceremony for the news reading course, which we had in 2019 and 20. It just ended in January 2020. And after that, so we were planning for that certificate course. Actually, it was supposed to happen on 20th March, so just after 7 days. So suddenly, after that, gradually the situation deteriorated, and we the lockdown was announced. It was announced on 24th March, so far I remember. And so that it was said the lockdown would be till 15th April. After that, we thought about going online. So we were actually waited for a few days, that is whether it will be ended or not. Then when we found that it was extended, then we thought going online. And the major challenge was that in the cultural sectors, at least in our centers, I would say people are not tech savvy. They know the technology, but they are not very conversant with the online things, that is having online meetings, having online classes like that. They are not conversant, neither the students nor the teachers nor the coordinators, because we didn't have it earlier. So at the end of March, we planned about online classes. First, we stepped on to the online classes. We made all the classes online. And first, we called our coordinators and the teachers of different centers, the coordinators of different centers over phone. And we gave instructions them how to join. We chose Zoom as the platform. And we just gave them the instruction how to join the Zoom meeting. So we had our first Zoom meeting, and there we just discussed with them how to conduct meetings on Zoom. After that, we had meetings on Zoom, and for several times, for 2 or 3 times, and then we started our online classes from April. And again, first the parents, we had different levels of children. We have levels of students. We have children, we have adolescents, we have young adults, we have adults like that. So we had some problems with the parents. We had some problems. They were a little confused how the classes will take place like that. Then we had to make them go through the practice. And in the classes, the first, still remember the first few weeks of the classes, first 2 weeks more or less, that we had to say, you please mute yourself, you please unmute yourself. Possibly those two were the words which I most uttered. I mean, which I said the most. That is, please mute yourself, please unmute yourself, like that. Now they became so that was the way they became conversant with Zoom and other online classes. Then we thought of taking other programs like conducting seminars, workshops, then conducting cultural programs like that. So then we had Rabindra Jayanti, that is Tagore's birthday. We celebrated Tagore's birthday online in different centers, and they enjoyed. And we also had a good workshop for children in May, in June. That was also very successful. And then we started different other activities online, like we started 2 programs one for elderly people, that is called Anjali, that is the offerings, that is the online classes for senior citizens, those who are above 50, it is particularly for them. And also we started a program Antorango, the intimate, it means intimate. It is for some underprivileged or needy people. So it was a free poetry performance course for 1 year to the underprivileged group, I can say. So, and also we had the news reading course. Earlier, it was done in person. Now that was started online. And again, there was a challenge that how will you give the practical lessons, practical classes online? Then again, it was managed that they downloaded different softwares and they could give all the support. Most of the supports could be given with the software. So this way, almost from the zero, we are now almost going actually at the beginning, we were really in that position, that is everything was stopped. So suddenly it was stopped down, and then now we are almost in our full-fledged activities. except the on-stage programs.
Now we will hear about Janhavi.
Yes. Janhavi started its online class sometime around June. Actually, I took some time because I never ever imagined my wildest dreams that I have to sit in a hall, empty hall, in front of a laptop or tab or whatever, and instruct my students, my children, to sit more, hold your hand properly, bend this way, bend, do that way, and it's very, very, I mean, painful for me, to be very honest. Actually, this online dance class is a big challenge because dance is something, it's all about physical movements. Okay, you need to be there in front of your student. I just want them to, I just want them to sit properly, make them sit properly, hold their hands properly. This physical presence is very important uh, for students and the teacher. So, but the thing is, I had a lesson from this Boshund, as I told you, Spring Festival. When we were having it, some people told me that I should not take this risk, because COVID by that time had hit India. So I consulted doctors that whether I should continue with it or whether I should stop it. The doctor said that it's okay. You just carry on with it because the venue is an open space. So I took the risk. And after that, one whole month, I was completely traumatized because, if anything would have happened to anyone, I could have never forgiven myself. I took a very big risk. And at that point, I had to decide, I had to choose between my profession, my work, and between my responsibilities towards my students and towards my parents who are both above 70, right? So I had to choose the second thing. I had to choose the well-being of my near and dear ones. And in this pandemic, I have lost many of my close people. And I really didn't want to take any more risk. I cannot afford to lose anybody anymore. So this whole idea of online dance class and, this pure dance form, Bharatanatyam or whatever, the pure classical dance form, it's all about Guru Shishya Parampara. In ancient time, the student used to live with the teacher to acquire the technique of this particular art form. And now the time has come when we are away from each other and I'm just instructing them. And it's very shocking. To be very honest, it's absolutely shocking thing for me. Now, the first I thought that, okay, I'll wait and observe the whole thing. Let me see how it goes. But then the phone calls started pouring in. All the guardians started calling me and they told that, look, the children are having terrible time. They are getting into depression and they are behaving very peculiarly. So please start the class. So I had to plunge into it. And it was quite a challenge for me and for the other teachers also. But then finally, you know, uh, we are getting used to it. The saddest part is the children. Constantly they tell me, have you banished us from Janhavi? When are we going to see you and touch you and hold you and hug you? And it's very tormenting. So uh, I have told my students that just forget about stage for a year or so. We are not in any hurry. Concentrate in your work, learn the techniques, practice well. read more, nurture yourself, and just wait. Be patient enough to, we are sailing through a very rough situation, and we have to wait for better days. We cannot take any risk. We cannot play around with something like COVID. We are into a pandemic situation, and I have many doctors in my family. So, constantly they are warning me. They are telling me we have to maintain certain protocols. We have to follow certain norms. So, that's what we are doing now. We have created this virtual platforms for young children where they where they can showcase their works, their creativity. We are trying our best to cope up with the situation, but the bottom line is we have to wait and we have to observe the situation, because this is very difficult time we are into, economically, in every way. Okay, so we cannot take any risk. We have
So with this, I think we will end our discussion today. And thank you to all of you for being here with us. I think there is a lot more to discuss, and this can go on and on, but we have a time frame within which we must work. So thank you to all of you. And I think everyone listening got an insight into how organizations have managed to survive, have managed to evolve during the pandemic. And this will, of course, be inspirational for a lot of organizations. At the same time, the audience will also, I think, be enriched with this knowledge about how these organizations whose work they may be familiar with, but don't always know what is going on behind the scenes, or how these organizations strategize. So this, I think, was a very valuable insight that you provided. So thank you once again, and thank you to everyone who has been listening. Thank you to all of you for being here with us. And with that, I think we will bid you goodbye. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.